No one knows when the earliest libraries formed, but some of the earliest written records come from Sumeria in Mesopotamia, now modern-day Iraq, around 3000 BCE. Sumeria was a busy commercial center, and they needed to record business transactions. Clay tablets were written into with a stylus, which created wedge-shaped marks called cuneiform. The writing is both pictographic, made of pictures, and phonographic, made of sounds. The dry tablets were stacked on wooden shelves or in jars and baskets. Some important tablets were stored in clay envelopes. Some of the first Egyptian libraries most likely formed in 2400 BCE. One of the most famous ancient Egyptian libraries is the Royal Library of Pharaoh Ramses II in Thebes, which contained an estimated 20,000 scrolls. The entry to the library was inscribed with the words, "Healer of the Soul." One of the most significant early libraries is the Library of Ashurbanipal, created around 800 BCE. The library was located in Nineveh, Mesopotamia, and started by the Assyrian king Ashurbanipal. He believed that libraries should not only maintain archival records, but should also serve as a source of current reference materials and contribute to the education of future generations. The library contained over 30,000 clay tablets and had a librarian who organized, marked, and arranged the materials. Ashurbanipal told assistants and scholars to collect clay tablets from other lands, which were then translated into Assyrian. The tablets included subjects such as medical, divination, historical, religious, astronomy, and epics. One of their most famous holdings is the Epic of Gilgamesh. The Library of Alexandria in Egypt was founded by Ptolemy, the successor of Alexander the Great, and his son Ptolemy II in the 3rd century BCE. It is one of the largest and most important libraries of the ancient world. Most of the books were papyrus scrolls and is estimated to have had between 500 and 700,000 works. They aggressively collected works for the library, and when ships would dock in Alexandria, books would be confiscated, copied, and the copies would be returned instead of the originals. No one is entirely sure when the library was destroyed. Some say it was burned down by Julius Caesar's army in 48 BCE or by an attack in 270 CE.
Alexander the Great died in 323 BC. His empire would be divided and Egypt would go to his most trusted general, Ptolemy, who was also crowned pharaoh. Ptolemy would continue his predecessor's work, and schools of learning in science, medicine, astronomy, and physics began to appear throughout the city. And then Ptolemy's legacy, the world's first research center, was constructed, and that was the Great Library of Alexandria. Its goal was to seek out every book in the known world, copy it, and then store it in this library. They took it so seriously that any traveler coming into Alexandria, whether it be by land or sea, would be searched for books, and if any were found, they would be confiscated. These books would then be painstakingly copied by scribes over many generations, and because of this, these books would eventually be the only copies to survive over the years. The library would house books of science, medicine, poetry, history, philosophy, geography, astronomy, and much, much more. As you can imagine, a city harboring all the world's knowledge in one place became a very attractive location for scholars.
Monastic libraries started flourishing around 500 CE in Europe. The monasteries had scriptoriums, which were rooms for writing, copying, and illuminating manuscripts by monastic scribes. The mission of the monastic library was threefold: to provide a place for spiritual reflection, to archive religious texts, and to reproduce religious and sometimes secular texts.
I knew it. Do you realize we're in one of the greatest libraries in all of Christendom?
Johannes Gutenberg developed the printing press around 1440 CE, which significantly influenced libraries. The press was able to produce exact copies, more titles that covered more subjects, and stimulated literacy in the education of the general public. The first library in the United States was the Harvard Library. It began after John Harvard donated 400 books to the school. It is the oldest library system in the United States and the largest university library and the largest private library system in the world. It is the fifth largest library in the United States currently. Benjamin Franklin started the first social library called Junto in Philadelphia. The library didn't survive very long but was replaced by the subscription library in 1731. This library still exists today as the Philadelphia Library Company. The first free public library in the world that was supported by taxes was in Peterborough, New Hampshire in 1833. Andrew Carnegie was hugely influential in building public libraries in the United States. He would build and furnish a library if the city agreed to maintain and staff it. He donated over $60 million and created a little over 2,500 libraries throughout the world between 1883 and 1929. By 1930, around 1,700 libraries, or half of the public libraries in the United States, had been built by Carnegie.
Now the question was, who could give away the most?
Andrew Carnegie was the first of the big capitalists of this era to be bitten by the philanthropy bug. He decided that he was going to use his wealth to good purpose, and he said that a man who dies rich dies disgraced.
Andrew Carnegie was not a very popular man among his millionaire friends because he demanded that the millionaire has to give away all of his money.
There's nothing wrong with making a lot of money. Making money is fun. I enjoy that very much. But I enjoy giving away money, even more so.
Carnegie gave away more than $350 million, $67 billion today. Most went to education and his favorite cause, libraries. As more than 2,500 Carnegie libraries were built in America and around the world.
And why, so you're achieving. L is for look, I inside, B in books, R for resources, A available, R for reading. Why, so you're achieving. L is for look, I inside, B in books, R for resources, A available, R for reading. Why, so you're achieving. Go to the library. Go to the library. Go to the library. Go to the library.
Who are you guys?
We're the librarians.
Really?
Yep, you got it.
Okay. The librarian.